Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks bringing you your daily NVIDIA report for Monday, April 7th, 2025. Let's take a look at the charts. Sell signal last week, and in fact, we're probably more than halfway to reaching our next objective, which at one point I was mentioning would be a 2 to 3 month target. We may see 79.09 over the next 2 to 3 days with the way things are playing out. And so you've got upward resistance at 109.99 that if tested this week, and I don't see that happening, I'll get to that in a moment, 109.99 can contain buying into May activity, and below which, with present volatility, I will call 79.09 a realistic 3 to 5 week objective. And once again, we may actually see that this week, especially given the fact, and I'll just kind of jump to the daily chart, we are below 97.22. That is a respectable 3-4 month channel bottom. It can contain today's highs, and below which the 90.69 level in reach. That is nothing more than the August 24 pullback low. That was a substantial low. In other words, we came off of it and closed near the high of the day, and that was it. So that's going to give the market some trouble, but I'm not encouraging buying it for those of you who are 3 to 5 day swing traders. We could bottom out there intraday potentially for the day, but I do think it's ripe for violation, if not today, over the next couple of days. And if we happen to break or perhaps open below 90.69, I mean, after all, we may be in the early stages of an all-out tariff war. China responded to Trump's Wednesday tariffs on Friday or Thursday, I should say, and the European Union has yet to retaliate, but it is assumed that they probably will. They're saying as much. So this could be the beginning of a drawn-out process that just drags the market south in a pretty ugly way. 97.22 can contain today's highs, and I'm going to say that if we're holding below 97.22, if we can't close back above 97.22, that 79.09 objective is actually in reach this week. And yeah, if we close today below 90.69, I think it's in reach over the next 2 to 3 days. 81.97, and let me jump to a weekly chart to show that more properly. 81.97 is a 50% downside retracement from the significant October 22 low against this more recent January high. So it is kind of a range here down to 79.09. 79.09 is once again our 3 to 5 week objective that actually may be realized this week, holding below 97.22. 97.22, for those of you who are aggressive and nimble, if you will, is a short sale level, not only for the day down to 96, but for the week down to 81.97, 79.09. And if we happen to break or especially open today below 90.69, once again, we actually could see 79.09 to 81.97 today. I will say that if we close below 90.69 today, we should over the next couple of days continue south into that 79.09 to 81.97 region, where the market can actually bottom out perhaps through the rest of the year. I think that would require some help in terms of the tariff war, as I guess I'm calling it. In other words, that the worst will have occurred soon following a test of 79.07, and the market then is free to rally back to 109.99 within a matter of a month. Of maybe several weeks, something like that. We could then top out at 109.99 for a month. We could then fill this band out for several months, perhaps. Now, if we close below 79.09, there will be other levels we might be able to find, but I don't like to do that. I know that many people are bullish NVIDIA. Many people have invested in NVIDIA, and I just happen to think that if we close below 79.09 on a weekly basis, we could continue deteriorating a longer term, possibly all the way back to that October 22 low in the very low 10s. But that's an extreme. I do need to do some more homework to really see what the objective will be. And you can bet that as we assumingly approach this low 80s area, maybe this week, I'll get busy on that. But for right now, I can say that closing below 79.09 over the next few days would then indicate 65.18 within possibly a few days. And that is a 5/8 downside Fibonacci, also from the October 22 low against that January high. I think I've covered the downside pretty well. Let's take a look at the upside. Pushing through or perhaps opening above 97.22 will allow 102.67 today. I think it likely would yield 102.67. That would be a gap closing move from Thursday's low to Friday's high. And we could top out possibly for the balance of the day at 102.67 and fall away. But if we close above 97.22, I don't want to say that I would expect it, but I do think it would keep then 109.56 or 109.99 on the weekly chart in reach within the week, later in the week. There would be some, I'm assuming, relaxing of the war talk, the tariff war talk, as we continue into mid to later week that I think would allow that. But technically speaking, closing back above this 3-4 month channel bottom at 97.22 is a bit of a neutralizer of heavy bearish momentum right now. And I do think not only 102.67 in reach within a day, but within 3 to 5 days or less, 109.56. 109.56 is on the weekly chart, what we find on the daily chart, what we find on the weekly chart at 109.99. We really do need to close back above 109.99 to really indicate, I think, a good quarterly low, the market then likely to recover in the weeks ahead. Our initial target could be made within a full week of trade at 125.15, but I do think we can push back into the 140s, 150s again within several months of closing back above 109.99. And this is a scenario that I'm not expecting. I do think we're going to test 79.09 before we close back above 109.99. And that just seems to be the dynamic at play. Please click like, share. Oh, you know what I'm going to ask you to do? Well, this is entirely up to you, but, there's just so much happening in the Triple Q, in the SPY, broader market analysis, big support and resistance levels we're now taking out and tracing down to on those weekly charts. I think if you're an avid, experienced, and active NVIDIA trader, you really owe it to yourself to take a look at the Triple Q especially, and even the SPY. This is my personal opinion, and you can see it for 5 days anyway for free by going to wickedstocks.com and taking advantage of our 5-day free trial up front, in which you'll also get 2 stock picks a week, a daily SPY analysis, daily Triple Q, weekly Apple stock analysis, as well as weekly S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 index analysis. I think that is really all that needs to be said. I'm going to leave it at that. I will be back tomorrow, of course, with Tuesday's NVIDIA report. You have a great day.